Welcome. You are watching a presentation on an international organization known as NAFTA. NAFTA is an abbreviation for North American Free Trade Agreement. NAFTA is an agreement signed by the governments of the United States, Canada, and Mexico, creating a trilateral trade bloc in North America. In terms of combined purchasing power parity of its members, as of 2007, the trade bloc is the second largest by nominal GDP comparison. Prior to NAFTA, Mexican tariffs on U.S. imports were 250% higher than U.S. tariffs on Mexican imports, which led U.S. and Mexico to decide on a free trade agreement, which in 1991 Canada requested to join. Hence the formation of a trilateral agreement, which then led to the creation of NAFTA. The agreement came into force on January 1, 1994. It suspended the Canada-United States Free Trade Agreement, CUSFTA, between the U.S. and Canada. NAFTA was signed by the U.S. President George W. Bush, Mexican President Salinas, and Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney in 1992. It was ratified by the legislators of the three countries in 1993 and entered force on January 1, 1994. Although it was started by President Bush, it was President Clinton who was recognized for driving it forward and hence was considered one of his first successes. In 1993, concerns about liberalization of labor and environmental regulations led to the adoption of two addendums. The two addendums are known as the North American Agreement on Environmental Cooperation, NAAEC, and the North American Agreement on Labor Cooperation, NAALC. A very recent addition was the Security of Prosperity Partnership, SPP, of North American, which was intended to help cooperations on issues of national security. The declared aims of NAFTA are first and foremost strengthening the economic growth in the territories of the three NAFTA member states by means of deregulation and the removal of import taxes. Opening of new markets to their own economies would hopefully give their industries the possibility to expand in terms of increasing the competitiveness of their industry on a global scale. Other aims include the adjustment of trade rules, ecological initiatives, and labor rights to a common basis so that it would facilitate a predictable framework for firms. As a result, NAFTA's expected positive impact on the nation's economies is anticipated to create new jobs and enhance their living standards. NAFTA's institutional structure is composed by the Free Trade Commission, FTC, which is the principal body of NAFTA that oversees NAFTA's performance and evolution, but it is also responsible for dispute settlements. The FTC is composed of the U.S. Trade Representative, the Canadian Minister of International Trade, and the Mexican Secretary of Commerce and Industrial Development. Also, NAFTA's Secretariat Administrative Office serves the FTC and its dispute panels, committees, and working groups. The Secretariat consists of national offices in Mexico City, Ottawa, and Washington. NAFTA's main mechanism is mainly to implement policies that would encourage free trade among the NAFTA countries. The governments of the NAFTA countries do this in the means of removing protectionist measures such as tariffs and quotas, implementing policies such as competition policy, providing intellectual property rights, and placing standard and labeling measures. In terms of trade, NAFTA has vouched that in 8 years' time from the year it was enforced, tariffs on automobiles will be eliminated as long as a certain percentage of costs are comprised of North American materials or labor. Hence, the removal of tariffs would bring economic growth, because an elimination of tariffs for an exporting country will increase exports, as consumers in importing countries will import more as export goods will be much cheaper after the removal of tariff, therefore increasing aggregate demand, which is the final goods and services of a country. It is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. As a result, leading to economic growth of the country, hence achieving one of its objectives. Also, about half of the existing tariffs and quotas on agricultural goods were supposed to be eliminated immediately after the agreement was enforced. However, the politically sensitive crops such as the U.S. corn sold to Mexico or Mexican peanuts, sugars, and orange juice sold to the U.S. was supposed to be gradually phased out over the maximum period of 15 years, which it has successfully achieved as last remaining trade restriction, mainly tariffs and high import charges on those handful of agricultural commodities, has currently been removed. The removal of tariffs on agricultural goods has been very beneficial for the U.S. especially because statistics show that Canada and Mexico are respectively the first and second largest export markets for the U.S. agricultural products. Exports to those two markets combined were greater than exports to the next six largest markets combined. From 1992 to 2007, the value of the U.S. agricultural exports worldwide climbed 65%. Over that same period, U.S. farm and food exports to our two NAFTA partners grew by 156%. Hence, the removal of protectionist measures has been very beneficial to the balance of payments of the U.S. Other successes include the massive increase in trade of other goods such as textile and technological goods between 1993 and 2007, as trade tripled from $297 billion to $930 billion. The source of its success are effective removal of trade restriction. Though NAFTA has brought positive effects to the economies of the three countries, facts show that the impact of the agreement contradicts the original aims of NAFTA, especially the intended effect on the labor market. U.S. President Bill Clinton had claimed that NAFTA would create 200,000 jobs by 1995 in the U.S. alone when presenting the agreement to the American people. But in specific sectors like the automobile and textile industries, 40% of existing jobs in the U.S. are endangered, as shown in the 2007 review of the agreement. The cause for this is due to the fact that lower wages in Mexico are favorable to U.S. firms. Hence, U.S. firms move production into the northern territory of Mexico in order to reduce production costs. Also, trade unions are less powerful in Mexico, allowing for greater flexibility for the firms due to less severe regulations in the field of labor rights. Furthermore, the ecological and safety standards are less prohibited in Mexico. It is observed that the firms most frequently set up factories in the Mexican counties that are close to the U.S. border. Hence, transportation is cheaper and faster. The goods are shipped over the border to Mexican plants for cheap assembly and then returned to the U.S. The setting up of factories near the border is known as the maquiladora operation. Another most controversial of issues has to do with the increased number of illegal Mexican immigrants entering the United States since the agreement was formed. Statistics report that there was 2,012 illegal Mexican immigrants in the United States in 1995. Since that time, 8 million illegal immigrants have gained entry into the country. NAFTA critics say it is due to an increase in Mexican farmers being forced out of business because of cheaper imports brought in from the U.S. Also, due to the competitive pressure, Mexico's agricultural business has increased its use of fertilizers and other chemicals, costing $36 billion per year in pollution. Rural farmers have expanded into more marginal land, resulting in deforestation at a rate of 630,000 hectares per year. One of the most current issues facing the organization is in 2008, due to an economic recession in the U.S., Mexico's and Canada's exports had fallen as consumers in the U.S. had cut down their consumer spending, affecting the Mexican and Canadian balance of trade, as U.S. was one of their biggest importers. Trade had fallen by 29.6%. Though the U.S. economy is no longer in recession, trade has still not recovered fully yet. NAFTA is currently trying to recover from that. Also, NAFTA is trying to add on policies that would retain and relocate workers that face job losses due to trade. Hopefully you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.